Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, everybody, welcome to the playoffs. The Bills getting set to take on the Denver Broncos, and the wild card round on Sunday at 1 p.m. at Highmark Stadium, a rematch of a disappointing Bills loss last season. Buffalo comes in as the number 2 seed and an 8.5-point favorite per many sports books, and Buffalo hoping to take care of business while punching its ticket to the divisional round for the 5th straight season. What a year it's been for the Bills. After last season, the Bills removed the banner they had hanging in the field house that read "One Team, One Goal" with an image of the Lombardi Trophy plastered on it. In its place, they put up a banner that simply read "Buffalo Football" without any catchy phrase or imagery. It seemed like they were departing from the championship mentality that had been instilled over many years under Sean McDermott. And with the removal of the banner, questions began to swirl. Were the Bills rebuilding? Was it a transitional year? Would they still win the division, or would they even make the playoffs? There had been doubt brewing for years since the 13 seconds debacle against Kansas City, but now that doubt seemed to be coming from inside the walls at One Bills Drive. However, through 18 weeks of regular season play, the Bills turned expectations on their head and forged through an astonishing regular season that saw the team and its players enjoy incredible accomplishment. 13 victories, equaling the most regular season wins of any team during Sean McDermott's tenure. An MVP campaign for quarterback Josh Allen. A first-year offensive coordinator in Joe Brady, who is now one of the hottest head coaching candidates entering the cycle. The team's 5th straight AFC East championship. The number 2 seed entering the AFC postseason, and so much more. Despite the transition the Bills encountered this offseason, one thing remained intact, and that was this team's championship culture. There are plenty of kudos to go around as a result of an incredible regular season run, but the two men within the Bills organization who deserve the most credit for helping the team remain on course through much uncertainty are McDermott and Allen. The tip of the spear, the head of the snake, the captain of the ship. McDermott and Allen have shared the lead role since the franchise elected to name just 2 captains this season, collaborating in their leadership while guiding this group to great things throughout the year. In the end, the steady hands of the Bills head coach and quarterback have guided Buffalo to another successful year. But now that the regular season is through and expectations for the team have been altered due to its own accomplishments, the question is, what should we consider a success for the Bills during the playoffs this year? Conference championship berth, or is it Super Bowl or bust? That's a question we explore today on the latest episode of Right Here, Right Now, the first of many episodes this week, which will feature a number of local guests and some perspective from the Broncos side of things. Before we get started with our 2 guests on today's show, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on the Batavia Daily News YouTube channel, where you can find past episodes and upcoming shows throughout the remainder of the playoffs and throughout the off season. All right, so before we welcome today's 2 guests, WGR Sal Capaccio and Nate Geary, let's start by discussing this Broncos team, which features one of the league's stingiest defenses and an offense. They rely on their defense to set up their offense under the guidance of Super Bowl winning head coach Sean Payton. Entering this matchup, a few numbers stand out to me. 4 players on the Broncos with 7 sacks or more. Linebacker Nick Bonito leads the team with 13.5 sacks. Jonathan Cooper close behind with 10.5. Defensive end Zach Allen with 8.5. And John Franklin Myers with 7. This is one of the league's top pass rushers, and it will be good on good this weekend in Orchard Park. The Bills' offensive line these past 2 seasons allowing the fewest sacks in the NFL, the fewest since 2009. This season, Aaron Cromer has done a phenomenal job with that group. But on the other side, defensive coordinator Vance Joseph has really got this pass rush eating on all levels. And it really comes at you in waves. Like I said, Bonito and Cooper over 10 sacks, while Allen, Franklin Myers with 7. And then they have 2 other guys with 5. So a lot of capable pass rushers on this Broncos team. And they've been able to finish those pass rushes throughout the season, which has been big for Denver. On the back end, the coverage has been working with the rush all season long, and leading that pack in the coverage unit has been Patrick Surtain, having an incredible season, an all-pro level season for Surtain. 4 interceptions. He's allowed 33 receptions all season, an average of just 2.2 per game, and 250 yards to opposing receivers on the year, an average of just 16.9 yards per game. He was an all-pro a few years ago, and like I said, he'll likely be in line for that honor again this season. And as we discuss later on with Sal and Nate, I think it behooves the Bills that they have a list of pass catchers that they can go to in this game, that everybody eats mentality that they've established throughout the season, rather than relying on Stephon Diggs so heavily as they did a season ago. With so many options for Josh Allen to go to, it's going to be hard for Surtain to really decide where he wants to go on a given play. I'm not sure we'll see him following any of the Bills receivers come Sunday afternoon. The pass defense is really elite, like I said, with that rush and coverage working together. But Denver has allowed opposing rushers to go for 100-plus yards on 3 occasions this season, nearly 4 when J.K. Dobbins went for 96 yards for the Chargers in Week 6. This could be a big week for James Cook. It's been a big year for James Cook, tying O.J. Simpson's franchise record for single-season rushing touchdowns and also eclipsing the 1,000-yard mark for the 2nd consecutive season. And if you look at this Broncos defense, I think the one area they can be exposed is through the running game. And this Bills offensive line, inserting David Edwards into the equation, shifting Connor McGovern over to center. It's become a much more physical unit, and that's allowed Cook to really flourish this season, particularly when in scoring range. And I think that's taken this Bills offense to an entirely different level, not relying on Josh Allen to finish every drive, but rather going to Cook when down close and him punching it in the end zone. And I think he'll be able to do so this weekend against the Denver Broncos. Could be a day, like I said, for James Cook. Broncos rookie quarterback Bo Nix could be in for a long day against this Bills defense, which has been up and down throughout the year. Historically, Sean McDermott defenses stifle rookie quarterbacks at just an incredible rate. Rookie quarterbacks 11-4 combined between the regular season and playoffs since Sean McDermott came to Buffalo 8 years ago, forcing 21 interceptions have the Bills defense against rookie quarterbacks under McDermott. And they've allowed just 9 touchdowns over those 15 games. So Nix has steadily improved this season. He's really improved his ability to take chances and go down the field. That's something that often develops with a rookie quarterback. They come in a little tentative, not wanting to make the mistake, but as they grow more comfortable with the system they're in and with their just surroundings overall, I think, and that's what you're seeing from Bo Nix this season. Also relies on that short passing game as an extension of the running game. Broncos running game certainly doesn't strike fear in anybody. Their lead running back, Javonte Williams, averaging just 3.7 yards per carry. Really a 3-headed monster being used lightly in this situation out of the backfield for the Broncos. So Bills haven't had a great year stuffing the run, but this could be a week where they get things turned around in that regard. All right, without further ado, let's welcome our first guest, Sal Capaccio of WGR 550. Joined by WGR's Sal Capaccio and really Buffalo media mogul, Sal's house. Also always game day in Buffalo with Matt Beauvais. Sal, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on again.
You got it. Quick turnaround from yesterday's game at the Patriots. We're both back in Western New York, getting ready for the Broncos now. But before we turn our attention toward Denver, I just want to get your opinion on the regular season. Are you surprised in any way how things worked out for the Bills? There was so much talk about a transitional year, a lot of talking heads picking the Dolphins, the Jets to win the division. I don't know if surprise is the right word, but that's the one I'm going to go with here. Are you surprised with the Bills finishing 13-4 and dominating much of the schedule the way they did this season?
Yeah, I say I was, because I had this team at possibly 11 wins. I had them really at 10. I think in most places that people would ask me, I'd say, yeah, I think 10-7 is good. Excuse me. I never bought the talk though that they were taking a step back, transitioning to any sort of like non-playoff level, right? I thought that they would be a team that would still be in the playoff mix. They'd probably make it. I thought they would still be, a team that could win the division. But the one thing I didn't count on was how bad the division was at the end of the day, right? With the Jets and the Dolphins. And we all knew the Patriots wouldn't be that good. Here they are sitting at 14 wins. And the other thing 13 wins. And they could have had 14 if they had, had played all their regulars, whatever. 13 wins, though, was amazing, I think, for this team. The other thing I was surprised at was if you told me they're going to win 11, 12, even 13 games, I would think it would have been more in the strength of their defense. And maybe some magic from Josh Allen. But here they are scoring over 30 points a game. Their defensive numbers have not been that great. I think that part of how they got here is a little surprising to me too.
Yeah, I think the unsung hero for this year is Joe Brady, just what he's done with this offense, taking over for Ken Dorsey last year, really getting that run game ignited. James Cook going for over 1,000 yards last year. But the difference this year, finding the end zone with that running game, taking some pressure off of Josh Allen. And I guess that's my next question to you. But before we move into next week, who's your unsung hero for this team this year? Joe Brady could be getting head coaching calls here coming soon. I'm not sure if he'll want to take any of the jobs, with Jacksonville kind of being a dismal opportunity. The Jets, another tough job there, but we'll see what awaits Joe Brady in the future. For me, he's my unsung hero, maybe alongside that running game with James Cook. For you, who's your unsung hero for the Bills this season?
Well, since you've opened the door to coaches, I'm going to go with Aaron Kromer. I think Aaron Kromer has done an amazing job with this offensive line. They lead the league in fewest sacks allowed. Of course, that helps having Josh Allen, who's so good back there, but they do a great job on a weekly basis, both in the run game and the pass game. And for him to kind of be able to mold this offensive line and move from Connor McGovern to guard to center and bring in David Edwards, 2 years now with Osiris Torrance, the way that Spencer Brown has really grown under his tutelage, I just think has been a fantastic job. And I think that, Aaron Kromer is as much a part of this offensive success as anybody else. So for that reason, I'll go with him. If I have to pick a player, I might go, I want to say Christian Benford, but I think we all knew he was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let me go Taylor Rapp. I think Taylor Rapp on the back end, a lot of questions about what the safety position would be, and he really stabilized it. He really stabilized the safety position. So, I think the year that he had in conjunction with DeMar back there and then Cam and Bishop when they had to play, Cam Lewis, Cole Bishop, I think Taylor Rapp, really was a stabilizing force after losing those two safety that you had for so long.
All right, now entering this Broncos contest coming up, the wild card round, Bills looking to work their way past the divisional round, punch their ticket to the AFC Championship this year. But as Coach McDermott said on Sunday, it all starts 1 week at a time. When you look at this Broncos team, really built on its defense, rookie quarterback Bo Nix has progressed throughout the year, had a huge game against the Chiefs, and it seemed like the Chiefs were trying to ignite Bo Nix leading into this matchup with the Bills in hopes of perhaps the Broncos knocking off Buffalo and maybe clearing the way a little bit for the Chiefs down the road. But when you look at this Broncos team and you think back to that embarrassing loss at the hands of Denver last season, how much of an impact do you think that loss has on this game? How much carryover it may have? I know the players changed. New quarterback comes in for Denver. The head coach is still there. What do you remember from that game, and how much of an impact do you think it might have on this game this year?
I remember a lot from that game. Obviously, the way it ended was not good for the Bills, right? They had too many men on the field on the missed field goal, giving the Broncos an extra opportunity, to kick that field goal to win it. There was a lot there. Also remember that after that game, Ken Dorsey was fired the next day, I believe, right? If I remember correctly. And And then you also remember the incredible play Russell Wilson made to Cortland Sutton, was it, on the catch he made and the end line, basically the end zone line, which they had to go and review. I also remember the Bills fumbled on the very first play, maybe his first series. James Cook, they took the ball. Remember, the Bills took the ball to start the game. They won the toss, and then they fumbled on the first series of the game, which really, altered the game as well. So there was a lot from that game I remember. I don't think there's a carryover. No, I don't think that's like what happened in that game affects this game. What I do think, though, is that now Sean McDermott has a bit of a book on the way Sean Payton wants to attack him, even with a different quarterback. And I think that the same is true the other way, where Sean Payton has a bit of a book on how Sean McDermott might want to defend a Sean Payton offense. They've seen each other a few years. They played against each other in Thanksgiving a few years ago in New Orleans. We know that as well. So I do think that those things can translate a little bit. This is not the most unfamiliar opponent, right? Sometimes you have teams you just have not seen or haven't played, but you go back a few years, like I said, they played each other. These coaches have like 2 out of the last 3 years, I believe it is. So I do think that can kind of have a little bit of relevance here.
On the Bills side of things, the past few years, they've been kind of limping into the postseason in some senses. This year, really fairly healthy. You get Matt Milano back midseason. He's starting to round into form, got a day off this past week along with several other starters. But you look at that Chiefs game last year, I think you had both of your cornerbacks banged up. Benford missed the game. Douglas was really limping around. Terrell Bernard wasn't out there. You're also missing Taylor Rapp, so very depleted in that game. And what you're hoping for is the health to continue as the playoffs go along. But entering the postseason, the Bills very healthy. How big of a role do you expect that to play? And just, I guess, how significant do you think that is entering the postseason?
Well, I think it's incredibly significant. Look, I mean, they went into sorry about that. They went into the last game.
Hey, you were talking on the radio yesterday through
I know
sub-zero temperatures. Totally understandable.
Sorry. And I just had a 2-hour radio show today, right. So
you got week 18 throw. We're very grateful for you joining us here.
No problem. So anyway, the Bills went into the Patriots game, I think, Alex, really just with the number one goal. Like, let's get out of this healthy. Look at the inactive list. It was a who's who of starters and really important players. It's like, who can we not live without, right? And in the playoffs. And then they had a bunch of guys who were active, because you can't make everybody inactive, and didn't play. They didn't even play any of their starting offensive line. It was entirely backups. They didn't play Matt Milano. They didn't play either of their tight ends, Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox. Now, to your point, the Bills have this year, I think, to me, really kind of geared for this, which is they've played the long game. They've really kind of not pressed on guys' injuries. They've not rushed guys back, even when guys, as you know, were not on IR and started practicing. They didn't play. Terrell Bernard practiced for a week before he played again. Taron Johnson practiced a week. Dalton Kincaid, Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman. A lot of these guys had injuries they were dealing with. They practiced, didn't play. Taylor Rapp the last few weeks. Look at the safety. So I think that this has been so incredibly intentional, because the Bills did have that situation last year we referred to, where they got so banged up in that game, in the really week 18 and the wild card game. And then they obviously had all the situation they had against Kansas City. It was so tough to stop the Chiefs. I think it's been a very big focus of theirs going in. Now, here's the problem. You get to the playoffs, a guy gets injured. No, there's no resting now. It's either you got to play hurt or he's not playing, because it's like, you're playing 1-game seasons now. So you hope that continues. As you said, it would have been nice to get the 1 seed and have that extra bye. They don't have that, but I think it's incredibly significant that they are going into the playoffs with literally one player, one regular on IR, and that guy's a backup, and that is Bale Inspector.
Yeah, wild take from Fox Sports' Chris Bouchard the other day about load management in the NFL, but I think some of what he said rang true. I don't think it's necessarily week 18 you point toward that, but I think you've seen it with the Bills these past few seasons. Maybe not load management, but like you said, the foresight of sitting some of these guys down maybe preemptively so their injuries either don't linger or get worse as the season goes along. You saw it with a number of players this year, especially toward the end of the season, I think, with them keeping DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp out a couple of games, just knowing how thin they are at that safety position. But another product of them doing that, I think it allowed some of these younger players, more inexperienced players, some opportunities to provide some depth in some increased roles that they had in the past. So I think that may serve them well come postseason time as well. If they are to lose a key starter, they do have some guys who have filled in throughout the course of the year that may be able to step in a bit more seamlessly than A.J. Klein, pulling him out of his RV last season for the playoffs. But more on the Broncos. This is a team that really gets after the quarterback. They lead the quarterback, or they lead the league in quarterback sacks, I believe 58 or something like that on the season. Josh Allen has not been sacked much this season, so it's really going to be good on good. The Denver pass rush going up against that Bills offensive line, as you said, that has developed so well under Aaron Kromer in its first year with this new look unit. What do you see from Denver's pass rush? I know that there's not a lot of big names on that defense, but certainly a talented group.
Yeah, actually, after yesterday's game against the Chiefs, it's 63 sacks on the season for the Broncos, which is amazing. And it's not just the volume of numbers. It's they actually lead the league in sacks per pass attempt. They're sacking the quarterback at over 10% of the dropbacks of a quarterback. Only two teams can say that. That's the Denver Broncos and the Dallas Cowboys, of course, with Micah Parsons. And when you look at these guys and what they do on defense, it's kind of like it's like the Bills. Like they have pass rushers, but it's really just all about the system. It's all about how these guys work together. And they have some names over there, but really it's about kind of how they do it as a unit. And a lot of it starts in their coverage. Patrick Surtain is amazing, and he can really take away your best option. Now, I think one thing that benefits the Bills here, this everybody eats mentality, Alex, is the Bills don't have a true number one. If you have Stephon Diggs, you're putting Patrick Surtain on him, probably he travels. Now, maybe on third downs, he follows Amari Cooper, right? Maybe that could happen. I don't know. But I think that with the Bills' philosophy of how they play, I don't think they're really worried about where necessarily Surtain's going to be, because they can have a lot of options where they want to throw the ball. But that's where it starts too. They get after the quarterback. They're very aggressive. There's no doubt about that. So I think this is not obviously an easy matchup for the Buffalo Bills. They're going to be very aware of that. And, I think for the Bills, more than anything, just protect the football. They've been so good at protecting the football this year. And as long as Josh Allen can continue to protect the football, both, not fumbling, if they do get close to him, protect the football, don't allow a strip sack, something like that, and not throwing it to the other team. I don't know if the Broncos offense is equipped to handle and keep pace to score enough if they don't get extra opportunities or short fields.
It's exactly where I was going to go next. I think in a game against a young quarterback, a team that's reliant on its defense, you have to make sure ball security is one of your number. Obviously, it is every week, but you have to make sure even more so this week you're holding on to that football, not taking extra chances in terms of Josh Allen. He's done a great job of doing that all season long. It's one of the reasons he's in the MVP race. How about Bo Nix before we close this out? What have you seen from Bo Nix this season? He's certainly progressed throughout the year, has no fear in going deep down the field, something that the Bills don't really give up a lot of, those deep throws down the field. So he may have to manufacture some more extended drives, something he may not be as comfortable doing in his rookie season. But what have you seen from Bo Nix in your time watching the Broncos this season? And how confident are you that he may be able to overcome the dismal history that rookie quarterbacks have had going up against Sean McDermott defenses?
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think if there's a confidence in this game for Bills fans, it might start with Sean McDermott against a rookie quarterback, right? I mean, like he's been very good in those situations. He's done a good job. And him and Bobby Babbitt are going to try to confuse the heck out of Bo Nix. But let's remember, Bo Nix has a Super Bowl winning, fantastic offensive head coach on his sideline with him in Sean Payton. And he's really played really well over the last, second half of the year, at least here. And they have taken shots down the field. And the other thing is he uses his legs a lot. I remember a couple weeks ago, I asked Bills defenders about playing Drake May. And I said, what do you see in the rookie quarterback? And it was interesting that several of them said, look, he's a rookie. So if you make it where he's kind of questioning what he's seeing, he's going to take off. That's what rookies do. They're going to take off. Young quarterbacks, okay, I'll get it. I'm not going to make a mistake, so I'm going to run. So they were very aware of that with Drake May. I think they'll be very aware of that with Bo Nix, right? Which is, okay, we know that if we put him in a situation where he's not trusting what he's seeing, he's going to run, and he's very good with his legs. So I think the Bills will have a plan for that. The Broncos are also one of the top teams in the league, if not the top, at protecting their quarterback as far as sacks per pass attempt. They do a great job at protecting Bo Nix. Some of that, it's just like Josh Allen. When you're good with your legs, you can move around back there. It mitigates a lot of that pass rush a little bit. I think one thing that helps the Bills here is they do play primarily zone defense. So they'll be able to kind of watch Bo Nix and keep everything in front of him instead of turning their back and running. And, he gets an opportunity. That's how Josh beats teams sometimes when they play man-to-man against him. I really like what I've seen from Bo Nix, but I do think it's a tough task for him to come into Buffalo on a playoff game and play Josh Allen in front of this environment in his first ever NFL, playoff start. I think that's a tough ask.
All right, final question. I asked Sean McDermott after the game yesterday, kind of an awkward question for me. I didn't really know how to phrase it, but I asked him, maybe an obvious question, what he would consider a success come postseason time. And I didn't expect him to give me really a soundbite answer, but he said the ultimate goal obviously is the Super Bowl. But the reason I asked him was during this offseason, during this past season, they had those Super Bowl trophies or the Super Bowl trophy with one goal or whatever on the wall in the field house. They took that down in the offseason, maybe to change the messaging entering this season. But the way that this season has gone for them, they're right back to those Super Bowl aspirations. And I guess my question for you is, what would you consider a success for this team this postseason? Is it Super Bowl or bust as it has been the past few years? Has that changed with the transition? Is it now reached the AFC Championship, just getting past that divisional round? Where are you at with what's a success for the Bills this postseason? Is it Super Bowl or bust?
I think now it is. I would have said it's not early in the season. Like if you asked me going into the season this question, I would have said, look, if you win the division and if you can you host playoff games, that's probably success given where they are in the transition, right? I mean, I would look at it as it's not Super Bowl or bust. To me, it wasn't Super Bowl or bust coming into the year, given the expectations. Heck, they weren't even the betting line favorite in most places to win the division. It was the New York Jets, I think, when the season started. But now you're here. Now you have the number 2 seed. And you have Josh Allen, who very likely is going to win the most valuable player award. So I don't know how you can't say that it's, I don't know how you can say it's not Super Bowl or bust. I think it has to be at this point. Now, that being said, Alex, let's say they got to the AFC Championship game and they lost a hard fought game. We could look back in a few months and go, man, they really they played over their heads all year. They weren't, they played considering the situation and the guys they got rid of. That was a nice, successful season for an organization that was supposed to not be there. I just have a hard time thinking that right now, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think now you have to look, you're the number 2 seed and you beat Kansas City already. And I know you lost to Baltimore, but they've lost a handful of games. It's there. You have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl. So I think that's why you have to consider it. That has got to be what you're after now. And that's a successful season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think at times throughout sports seasons, you have to change your goals, change what you have your sights set on, depending on the success that you experience. And with the great success of the Bills, and particularly Josh Allen is experiencing this season, I'm right there with you. I think it's Super Bowl or bust for this team this season. Now, if they do go to the championship and, like you said, they lose a hard-fought game, there is a chance that you may wrap your head around it, but I'm not so sure with the fan base. I think no matter how it ends this season, if it doesn't end with a Lombardi trophy, there's going to be a group of upset fans. But Sal, kept you 2 minutes later than I asked, but thank you for joining us. And if you'd like, tell the people where they can find your next sales house, game Buffalo and everything.
Listen, it's always at Sal Sports is where you can find everything on social media, and I'll be updating everything. But yeah, we're looking for more subscribers on the YouTube channel. We've really, I think, done a nice job of growing that with It's Always Game Day in Buffalo and Sal's house. Some really cool, interesting guests we've had on there and on location shows. So check it all out at Sal Sports on any social media platform.
All right, Sal. Thanks a lot. We'll see you down the road on Wednesday.
All right, you got it, guy.
All right, a big thank you to Sal for powering through a dry throat to provide us with his analysis of this weekend's matchup between the Bills and Broncos. Sal has been a big supporter of the podcast, and it's always good to have him on. Before we get to our next guest, Nate Geary, let us first thank our sponsor, Forefathers Organics in Dansville. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they offer. All right, here with WGR's Nate Geary, host of the pregame and postgame show on the Bills radio network. Nate, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well, preparing for this Broncos matchup, as I'm sure you are, and the rest of the Buffalo media sphere and Bills Mafia as well, getting ready for what should be another exciting weekend of football in Buffalo. And we'll just jump right into it here. Of all the teams in the AFC this season, Bills fans going into the playoffs, a lot of them wanting to avoid the the Bengals, having the Broncos on their mind. Were you of the same line of thought? Do you think the Broncos are the best matchup for the Bills in this first round?
you know, I wasn't really running from the matchup against the Bengals like a lot of other people were. But there's no denying the difference at quarterback and some of the weapons that Cincinnati has that Denver just doesn't. But I think this is a unique matchup between the Bills and Broncos for a couple of reasons. The first one is, you're going to hear a lot in this week in podcasts or whatever content you're kind of consuming for the pregame aspect or the lead up into this game. And the one thing you're going to kind of hear a lot of is about, how good this pass rush is in Denver, which is true, especially on the edges. Nick Benito's really nice player for them, has really, I think, elevated his game to a new level. And they've got a great interior defensive line as well. Like this is a defensive line in front seven that is, part of why they're one of the best defenses in the league is how effective they are at getting after the passer. They blitz a lot. They have one of the highest blitz rates in the league. But to me, that's strength on strength. Your strength is getting after the passer. The Bills give up less, quarterback sacks and pressures than anybody in the league. And you have, in my opinion, two Pro Bowl, borderline all pro level players at each tackle. You feel like that matchup, strength on strength, you're happy that the Bills' strength is where it lies because where Denver's strength lies, right? And then you kind of flip it in the inverse, right? Right now, the weakness, I think, of the Bills is defending the run, right? Well, I wouldn't really call that a strength of the Denver Broncos right now. They've really rotated between three backs all season long. Looks like Audric Estime is kind of right now the guy that's seeing the majority of the carries, but what does that mean? 25, 30, 35%. Of his team's touches is still a by committee approach, but nobody on that, in that backfield's really, keeping, I would think Bobby Babich or Sean McDermott awake at night. So I find it to be a unique matchup where it's like, okay, weakness versus weakness. Okay. Not a huge issue. Strength versus strength. Okay. You feel like you can maybe, they're going to make their plays. You feel like you're going to make your plays. So then what does this come down to then? Well, I think it could potentially come down to the two quarterbacks in this game. And I'm not going to let recency bias necessarily bring me to this place where I think Bo Nix is, some top 5, top 7 quarterback in the NFL, but he did finish the season the top 10 in a lot of metrics. He really evolved as the season went on, and it's been impressive. So not to take anything away from him, but if this is Allen versus Nix, I think we'll take the Josh Allen there on that one.
Yeah, you mentioned the Denver pass rush. 4 players with at least 7 sacks. They can really come at you in waves and from all different angles. So the Bills' offensive line, who has led the league for 2 consecutive seasons with least sacks allowed, they'll truly be tested this weekend. And then I wanted to go to the running game. You touched on it there. Maybe we could add to it a little bit briefly here. Javonte Williams seems to be the leader out of the backfield there, but like you said, it's not really a strength of the Broncos. The offensive side of the ball really isn't their strength. They rely on that defense to kind of set up their offense and play complementary football, aside from the Chiefs game where Bo Nix turned into John Elway. So
yeah.
But when you look at this running game and you look at the Bills' run defense, is this the week we finally see this run defense start to turn a corner? And what do you think the rotation the Bills are going to go with this weekend? They've been kind of sorting things out as the season has gone along. They brought in Quentin Jefferson and Jordan Phillips. They have the rookie Dwayne Carter, Dewan Smoot with the versatility to go inside alongside Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. What do you think the Bills' best chance is to stop this Denver running game in terms of personnel? And do you think this is the week that we finally see them turn a corner in that regard?
You'll hear this a lot too when the clock switches from the regular season to the postseason. That's really where defense becomes very important.
Yeah.
These games, it's been, I think, the thing that has held the Bills back, which the Bills have been in the top 5 and haven't played well in the postseason. They've been, closer to 10th. This is going to be, probably the worst defense the Bills in the Josh Allen era have taken into the playoffs. So we'll see if they're able to turn it around. I think both sides of the ball have been playing very vanilla, scheme-wise football, really for the better part of a month now. So I think it's where you turn it on. You've got Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, again, who's been playing great. You mentioned it. The one thing I'll add about Nix is the thing that I think you've seen, or I've seen at least develop over the last couple of weeks, especially is more of a willingness to throw the football vertically down the field. Early in the season, I mean, this was a guy, you look at those next gen stats passing charts, and it's all around the line of scrimmage, really relying on yards after catch. But now I think that you mentioned Marvin Mims a little bit earlier. I think to me, the development of Mims as a nice secondary piece, a yards after catch piece, has really opened up things for Cortland Sutton. And they've got a bunch of young, I would say unproven playmakers on that offense in terms of the wide receiver room. But for me, the Bills defensively, to me, it's not necessarily a talent issue. I don't think it's a scheme issue. I think that for the last couple of weeks, really since midway point of the season, his defense hasn't really communicated at the level we're accustomed Sean McDermott defense is communicating. That's really the one thing that you could always look to is the elite level of communication, especially between the safeties. That's a concern, obviously. But it's also between the linebackers and between the defensive line and that front seven. And, they have been showing more of a willingness this year than ever to run a base 4-3. You could absolutely, I think, expect to see more 4-3 in this game, especially on early downs. Get Dorian Williams on the field. Try to do what you can to limit that rushing attack as much as you can, and get them into those 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and long situations, because that's really where the Bills fans, the Bills Mafia can start to affect the game, because then, is Bo Nix going to be able to go up to the line of scrimmage? And if you can play with them pre and post snap and show some, show pressure and back out of it, or show pressure on one side and bring it to another, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to communicate at the line of scrimmage and get those changes up front, communicated. So to me, from the Bills' perspective, which is they need to be better communicators on the defensive side of the ball, have that shored up. I think that will solve a lot of their problems. Also use their lack of ability to have effective communication at the line of scrimmage on Sunday because of how loud it will be in that stadium. So I think communication ends up being sort of a buzzword, but I think maybe one of the most important buzzwords for this matchup and then moving forward as well.
You talk about the utilization of that 4-3. I think they really started to put that into place in that Lions game to help shut down that potent rushing attack. And we may see it again this week. Matt Milano is set to earn the start, of course, but I think we may see Dorian Williams a bit more often than we've seen him with Milano in the lineup, maybe shifting in and out of there. Milano, and I think I heard, I believe it was Sal bring it up. I'm not sure who it was, but I believe Milano's instincts are still there. Maybe he has lost a half step or two. Was it you who said this? I can't remember for the life of me.
I don't believe so.
This. But I think his instincts are still there, while Dorian Williams may be the more athletic player, the more effective player in that regard. So maybe a little bit mixing and matching. And you may see it on the back end as well, with DeMar Hamlin declared the starter by Sean McDermott on Monday. But with Cole Bishop in his progression this season, McDermott left the door open this past week for him to earn a more significant role, even with Hamlin back in the lineup. So you may see some changes there as well. But moving to Bo Nix, we all know about the trend of rookie QBs against Sean McDermott. They really struggle against the Sean McDermott defenses in the past. What will it look like if Bo Nix is able to overcome and buck that trend this week? What is going to set him up for success? And before we really dive into Marvin Mims, he's been a big part of what they've done offensively these past 2 weeks. 4 touchdown receptions in the last 2 weeks, I believe. So it's probably going to start with slowing him down for the Bills this week. But what's it going to look like for Bo Nix if he's able to overcome, like I said, that trend of Sean McDermott defenses shutting down rookie quarterbacks?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this is going to extend from, can he get the protection up front? I do think the Bills are going to utilize the blitz. They haven't been super effective all year at getting home with 4. And I suspect, again, in this game, the first time these two teams this year will face each other, their first opportunity to see Bo Nix, really maybe look at what Kansas City did in their first matchup to affect Bo, and look at some of these games where he has struggled, because just like every rookie quarterback, there's ups and downs, right? What more so forced those moments of down play, right? I think a lot of it is, pressure. I think a lot of it is, his maybe feeling a little tentative stretching the football down the field. I think that is gone. Especially over the last couple of weeks, really showing not just the ability to throw the football down the field, but like a desire to throw the football down the field. And, Marvin Mims, great player. I mean, fast with the ball in his hands. They like to get him in the screen game going, kind of the same way the Bills use Khalil Shakir, but he's also that downfield threat that I think they really needed alongside Cortland Sutton, because he's more of that possession type receiver, over the middle sideline stuff where, he's sort of the security blanket for Bo Nix. So for me, it's if they can establish the run, for him to be successful, they're going to have to be in as many in 3rd down and 5, 3rd down and 4, 3rd down and manageables as possible. But I think for me, it goes beyond just down and distance stuff. It goes to, if they can establish the run game, they should have more success with the play action. To me, that's going to be how Bo Nix beats this Bills defense. But what do you know about Sean Payton offenses, right? Timing, anticipatory throws, and that's why they decided to go after Bo Nix. They knew that of the quarterbacks available in that draft last year, that Nix was really going to be the guy to be able to walk off the bus, right, and really function at a high level in that offense, and he has. So for me, it's just like the short passing game against this Bills is going to be fundamentals. Can you get the ball carrier down when the ball comes out of his hands? Because when they want to get the ball to Mims in space, maybe it's just a 1 or 2 yard throw, but he can make things happen. So you got to get these guys down on the ground, and not let the short passing game be really effective for them. Because if it does, that leads sort of their short passing game is sort of an extension of their run game. So if they're able to have success, break a couple of tackles, gain 5, 6, 7, 8 yards on some of those plays, it's really going to allow them to dictate the terms. And I think that the best teams in this conference, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, they all tend to play better when they're dictating terms. And when you move the Ravens off of being able to play from ahead, same thing with the Chiefs, if you're able to get in front with the Chiefs, force them to become more one-dimensional, throw the football more, they become easier to defend, easier to beat. Same with the Bills. So I think for me, it's just like, how can you dictate the terms of the game, tackle, make sure you guys get those guys, make sure that defensive backs are on their P's and Q's, that the linebackers are, getting to the edges. And to me, the big thing will always be is the edges on the outside. Greg Rousseau is going to be a huge impactful player in this game, making sure that the run game does not get bounced out to the outside. And listen, Bo Nix is also a mobile player. He's going to be able to move and run the football and extend plays. And if he's extending plays, that could be a real big concern for this Bills defense for sure.
All right, just a couple more here. You touched on it where I was going to go next. Joe Buscaglia writing on The Athletic, speaking about it on the Buffalo Beat, 5 players he believes the Bills will need to step up if they hope to go on a run here. Matt Perino tweeting about it yesterday. What name will Bills Mafia be talking about if the Bills do indeed win the Super Bowl? You mentioned Greg Rousseau right there. Is he the player for you that needs to step up on this run? Not named Josh Allen, of course. He's at the center of it all, really. The gasoline, the engine, really the whole automobile, Josh Allen. But for your money, which Bills player or position group, I'll let you go there, needs to really step up and be on their A game and perhaps take their game to a next level if the Bills hope to go on a Super Bowl run here?
I'll go with the group, and I'll say the group at corner, but then also point out one guy specifically, and it's Rasul Douglas, a guy that I think they really need to get back into the form we saw him playing with earlier in the season, because that group will end up, to me, being a real make or break unit. Of course, everyone might look at the defensive line or the front seven and say, against these the heavy run teams, the Ravens, and even to a certain extent the Chiefs, being able to slow them down will be super important. That's going to really be, people relying on that front seven. But I think if you can funnel everything over the middle of the field, and I really got a lot of trust that Christian Benford's going to do his job at a really high level. I like Rasul Douglas a lot. I think at the beginning of the year he was playing a really high brand level of football, and it's sort of dissipated a bit over the last couple of weeks. And obviously he gets banged up in the Rams game, and but even in that game, he really struggled against Puka Nacua and those Rams receivers. So definitely not the same type of weapons that you're going to be seeing really at all in the playoffs in the AFC side here, because this is probably one of the the least inspiring groups of pass catchers in Denver. But then you've got, the Ravens without Zay Flowers right now. I mean, Tylan Wallace is their number 2 receiver, I think, right now. So to me, it can take care of business and shut down the outside passing attack and funnel things towards the middle. I think it'll go a long way in kind of what this defense needs to do to stay on their P's and Q's.
And final question, I asked Sean McDermott about it after the Patriots game. Kind of an awkward question, didn't really know how to frame it. Kind of knew what he was going to spit back at me. But what's a success for the Bills this season? Obviously, to enter the season, a transitional year, I think fans, media alike were really placing the expectations on making the playoffs, maybe a playoff victory. But as the season's gone along, I think those expectations have been adjusted to Super Bowl. Is it Super Bowl or bust for you? What would you consider a success for the Bills this postseason?
I think this team's got to get back to an AFC Championship game. I know that the expectations were a little bit lower this year. You're right. Get to the playoffs and let's see what happens, sort of thing. But they've got to take care of business this week. And I think for the Bills' sake, playing at home in the divisional round, they've got to get over that hump. There's just too many times now, 2 in a row, where you've hosted the divisional round at home and have left home empty-handed. So I think if get through this week, of course, and beating the Ravens would go a real long way in how people feel about the Bills going into Arrowhead, which is what I ultimately do think will happen. But I think for me, this team in this organization, this coach, this quarterback, they need to get to another AFC Championship game. And then at that point, anything can happen. But for me, it's AFC Championship or bust.
Yeah, if you fall to the Bengals, the Chiefs, and then the Ravens in the divisional round, and you're a definitive 4th entering next season, that seat's going to be mighty hot under Sean McDermott and really the entire organization. So I'm with you. I think AFC Championship, not quite Super Bowl or bust, but I think I'm trending toward Super Bowl or bust. It's all going to depend on how they perform these next 2 weeks. But Nate, pregame, postgame show, anything else going on over there at WGR or in your personal life that you'd like to touch on? A lot of golf, maybe not so much at this time of year.
Yeah, not a lot going on. This is football season, and especially now, it's kind of all in full focus. So, obviously Notre Dame plays on Thursday night. Been talking with a coworker, might try to sneak a flight down to Miami and go see the game live. So we'll see what happens. But looking forward to that game Thursday night, and go Irish.
All right, Nate. Thanks for joining us, and we'll hear you on Sunday.
Sounds good, my friend. Thanks
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, a big thank you to Nate. Appreciate him joining us. Keep an eye out on the broadcast on Thursday. Maybe you'll see him in his Notre Dame gear down there in Miami at the Orange Bowl. I am a Penn State fan, so rooting against the Irish on Thursday. Go Nittany Lions, but I guess it's neither here nor there. That's going to do it for this morning's episode. I'll be back this afternoon from One Bills Drive for a brief episode discussing the takeaways from what is a walkthrough practice for the Bills today. So we won't be able to watch it as the media, but we will speak to head coach Sean McDermott. We'll get an injury report. We'll speak with Josh Allen and other players in preparation for this matchup with the Broncos. So be sure to check that out later on today. One quick note, we recently released a special playoff preview edition of Bills Digest, available for free to our subscribers. Log on to billsdigest.com to become a subscriber today. Thank you once again to Sal and Nate for joining us, and we'll see you this afternoon.